Every day, there are people all over the world looking to create better lives for themselves and their families. These are moms or retirees or college students, everyday people. They are Amazon sellers, and these are their stories. In today's episode of Jungle Scout Seller Stories, I'm joined by Philipp, tuning in from Michigan. Philipp, what's up, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, Greg. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm really excited that you're on today. We're all excited to hear a little bit more about your story. Could you just start off by just telling everyone a little bit more about who you are, what you're up to, that kind of stuff?
So my name's Philipp. I am from outside Philly, and I go to the school at the University of Michigan. I'm in the Ross School of Business with a minor in computer science. I'm really interested in doing software and then working for myself after school. For fun, I compete nationally for snowboarding, and then
Nice.
I just kind of like doing my own little side projects like my Amazon business. And then I'm also in a consulting group, so we consult for nonprofits and social enterprises. So it's a lot of fun.
Cool, man. It sounds like you have your hands full. You're involved in a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I'm always busy.
I have lots of questions for you about all those things because you have a lot of exciting stuff going on. But when did you get started selling on Amazon?
So when I was in high school, I started using eBay to get rid of things.
Okay.
I'm actually an Eagle Scout, and like long story short, I ended up making a lot of money selling like collectible Boy Scout patches on eBay, and that's how I
Nice.
kind of got interested in e-commerce. And then when I was a freshman, there was one kid at my school doing over $1 million in sales on Amazon because he was a distributor buying like name brand products and just reselling it. And I was like, okay, if this kid can do this, so can I. And I started looking in it, and then I kind of came across private label and what that was. And then ultimately came across the Jungle Scout web app, and then started drop shipping hoverboards on eBay during that craze in like December of 2015.
Right.
Got into private label about last spring. And
Nice,
launched
right
my
on.
first product, yeah.
Cool. So where you at right now with like your Amazon business? Whether like is it just one SKU or multiple, or if you want to share revenue or
Started with one SKU and was like really cautious because I ended up getting ripped off for a lot of money by a guy in China at one point when I was
Okay.
drop shipping the hoverboards. So that like made me want to go really slow with this. So started with one SKU for about 6 months, went really slow, did like $3,000 in revenue a month. And now I'm at about $15,000 in revenue a month.
Nice.
Like,
Right on.
yeah, with like 30-40% margins.
Wow, those are awesome.
Yeah, so started.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had 3 products in the beginning of the summer, and then I went backpacking through Asia this May. And while I was there, I just wrote out an entire like new business plan. And now I'll be at 7 products by the end of by mid-October, I'll have 7 products like fully set up with like all professional pictures, complete listings, finalized reviews, everything along those lines.
So you're doing all that while you're a full-time student, as well as all these other things that you're involved in.
Yeah. So I usually try and spend about like an hour to 2 hours a day on it. And
Yeah.
then ultimately, like long-term goal is to be able to grow it to have passive income after school. That way I don't need to work on it for anyone else, and I can just travel and then work on other side projects.
Nice, man. That sounds like you have an awesome plan set out. That's amazing. Do you want to share a little bit more about like the details about kind of like how you got ripped off from someone in Asia, maybe prevent that from happening to someone else?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I was doing was I was drop shipping hoverboards, and like this, I like just found out about drop shipping, and I just couldn't believe that I could sell a hoverboard on eBay for $400, pay a guy in China $200, and then the guy in China ships it there for me. And that was just like unreal. And I remember standing in front of one of my classes, and I'm like, I should probably take this slow. Like, I don't know if the hoverboards are going to get there. And I was like, you know what? Go big or go home. And I ended up selling like, I forget a lot of the numbers because it was bad time at one point. Ended up selling between like 30 and 40 of them. And
Okay.
then what ended up happening is they started blowing up. So UPS stopped shipping them over like seas. So I had about 10 of them get blocked in customs. And pretty much what that meant was, like, if someone on eBay didn't get it, they could rip a refund from me,
Right.
forcibly pull their money. But I had also already paid the supplier, so I was losing money on both ends.
Right.
Yeah, long story short, ended up taking like 2 months for them to get there. Ended up having to give people on eBay Amazon gift cards so they wouldn't pull refunds. A lot of the numbers I forget on purpose, but it like wasn't detrimental, but that's essentially what happened.
Right. And it kind of killed momentum, kind of like hurt the spirit a little bit, right?
I think the biggest learning from that was ultimately like I didn't build trust with someone enough before like jumping like into the pool with them to work with them a lot.
But it was kind of more like customs and kind of like the laws around it as opposed to like the guy in Asia, right?
Yeah, I mean, also they were just a trading company instead of the manufacturers. So like he was just buying them and reselling them. So like he didn't really care what happened.
Yeah.
It's not like he was just building like and it's also drop shipping, so it's not necessarily like a long-term business partnership. Say as like now I work with two different suppliers in China. One's a trader, but he is just amazing at sourcing products for me, and like literally like crushes everyone else on price. Don't know how. And then I have another supplier that does a lot of my office products. And like I've been working with him for over a year, so I don't mind wiring him money because I know I'm getting my product.
So what do all your friends and family think about you? All your buddies in college and your family and stuff. What do they say when you tell them these stories?
Well, so I mean, like one of the kids that I'm really good friends with at school now, like he crushes it, like has kids working for him, like does over a few million in sales. So there's him. Then I actually got like one of my friends to start selling on Amazon as well now too. And he's in my fraternity at school. And so it's just like a really fun working with other people. All of my friends kind of think it's funny just because like my strategy is ultimately I want 10 products that profit $1,000 a month. So I can get to $10,000 of profit a month. And then that's when I like don't necessarily need to worry about a job after school. So I sell like the most random things and my friends find it absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I like that. Because that's like me too. Everyone's like, you know, like when I'm telling my buddies and stuff, like what I'm selling. I think they're always expecting like kind of like cool, sexy, like hip stuff, you know, and they're like, dude, like, are you serious? And it's like, hey, it's what sells, man.
So, no, that's like, who buys this? And it's like, a lot of businesses do. And I'm a really big fan of B2B, both in like terms of software. So like, I think your software, like stuff, products you offer are really cool. But like a lot of my Amazon products reflect that as well.
What are like the plans next then? What do the next 5 years look like? You said you have this business plan. You want to get to like 10 products, 10K a month in profit. What drives you to do that? And then when you achieve that, what are the next step? What are the next goals?
So, I mean, right now as a student, it's really hard, especially being in like a very prestigious business school, because all of my friends want to go work for like Goldman Sachs, McKinsey, and like all these big firms. And like, I'm much more interested in startups and small growth. Like, do you know what the startup Juicero was?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
All right. They were like the most notorious startup in Silicon Valley recently. They raised 120 million in stealth mode. They went bankrupt. Like it was a Keurig for juice, but I worked for them after freshman year and really like startups. So right now after school, I probably am going back to the place I interned last summer, which is the tech side of a Fortune 500 company. And I'd end up as a product manager there, which would be really cool. But ultimately, like I just absolutely love kind of building my own thing and then watching people use what I build. So pretty much right now, the dream would be to get to 10,000 a month in profit after school and then just travel and run the business from anywhere. Last year I went backpacking through Europe. This year I went backpacking through Asia. Most fun I've had in my entire life. So to be able to do that for a year while like running my Amazon business would be insane. I want to essentially build that up so I don't have to work on it more than an hour a day and then spending the rest of my time learning or working on other ideas like a B2B software company.
Everyone always asks me this question, so I'm curious to get your answer. How much time do you think's real? Like while you're, you know, you said you want to get to like 1 hour a day. And I think that's very achievable. How long does it take you to like research a product, launch a product, like kind of go through the whole process? I know everyone's always curious about that.
So I mean, like physically, I work an hour a day, but like the one thing I love is that I think about it 24/7. Like there's not a given point where I'm like, all right, like how am I doing on Amazon today? Why am I doing like this? Based on like what day is it? Like what time of the day? What month? Like what Google trend? Like what is Google Trends showing for me for all of my products? I probably would spend like say a weekend researching a product. Probably can find one in that weekend. But that's also spending like sitting down Saturday and Sunday and spending like 6 hours a day. I think for me, I'm now looking for better and better products. So it takes more time to find those. And then additionally, like it probably takes like a month and a half just because of time between like having your supplier find it takes a week, getting samples will take another 2 weeks, then finally placing that order is going to take a month. But I don't think it's necessarily that hard to launch it. I think the first one's just the hardest because you're trying to find the perfect one, but there necessarily isn't. And I've essentially learned that like if you put a lot of work into it and you've done your research, it will most likely be moderately successful. Not to the point where like you lose all of your money, but you're at least getting your money back.
I'm really glad you said that because that's what I always said to people. It's like, you know, I think some people are like so scared to like take that first step and like launch it. It's like, like if you at least become like pretty educated about like the space, which you probably are, like if you're watching this right now, right? Worst case scenario is probably like you about break even, maybe you lose like a little bit of money, and like how much you learn like through the process is probably like, I mean, how does it like compare like how much you've learned about selling your own products on Amazon, even versus like business school, right?
Well, I mean, like, I love applying the things that I learn in class. Like, one of my friends makes fun of me because she knows when I ask a question in class and it's pertaining to my business. Like, my B Law class has been super helpful. And then my accounting class as well, like both were super helpful. And I always ask questions like pertaining to myself in class. And my one friend would just make fun of me because she knew exactly what I was doing.
What kind of tips would you have for people who are like stuck in that first phase? Like they're researching products right now, but like, like you said, like they can't find like that perfect product. They just have like 50 products that they think are pretty good. Do you have any tips for them?
I mean, like really narrow it down to those first three and then figure out what you're comfortable losing. So, I mean, I've had out of seven, like the seven current products I'll have launched, I had 9 that I've tried total and 2 of them flopped. One were wireless headphones before last Christmas. And I was like, one, electronics is still a terrible idea if you're doing private label, unless you can like order a ton. 2, I was not experienced enough to do it. If I think I did it now, I could do it right because it was a super, super competitive space. But I ended up losing like $2,500 out of like the 6,000 I put down. So it wasn't like that big a deal. And then another product I just launched, cost me $600 to launch 150 of them. And luckily Amazon lost 70. So I got reimbursed. But if you're stuck, essentially really narrow it down to those 3 products and then find the cheapest one, just because that's the least amount you're likely to lose. And then just once you start selling that, you kind of get comfortable and realize like, oh, like I'm probably going to be able to get rid of this, like regardless. And worst comes to worst, you do what I did. And to get rid of my wireless headphones, I joined like 150 different buy and sell groups on Facebook. And I just posted them every single day about my headphones with a link to my Amazon listing. And that's ultimately how I got rid of them.
Nice. What lessons did you learn from those 2 flops that you could share with the audience, like to hopefully prevent them from the same thing happening to them?
Yeah, really research competitors in terms of like, my problem was like my wireless headphones were super cool because they turned on and off with magnets. Like you pulled them apart, they turned on, put them together, turned off. And when I launched it, like decided to do it, there was only one person selling them. By the time I launched it, there was like 11 of the same model. Really looking at Google Trends, like my one friend really like botched this. And he started selling a product that like only would do well in the spring and summer. And he started selling it like end of fall and then was surprised. And it's like really looking at Google Trends and making sure you don't have a seasonal product. And then also like really moderating. So like one of the products that flopped for me, there's only one person really selling it well, but they were selling like 600, 800 a month. So I was like, okay, if I can make $5 on each one of these and snag 200 of his sales, like I'm good. I'll make $1,000 a month. Then I ultimately ended up getting like nothing, and I had way better pictures than him. So where sales traffic is coming from is also a really big deal, because I know a lot of my friend has talked to me about this well, where a bunch of people will be selling it, but only one person does really well. And I think a lot of people don't take into account that they can be directing sales from either a website, Facebook ads, and that's why that one person's doing so much better than everyone else.
Have you picked up on any other kind of like red flags that you could use for tips besides like if one person's doing way better than everyone else? Is there anything else you tend to look for?
Kind of extras, or like how to differentiate yourself. Like right now, like my best selling product, there's only one other person selling it and they're identical except for price. And then this week someone started selling it for like $6 cheaper, like screwed me and the other guy over and hurt us. But I'm working on modifying it right now. So to like differentiate it from the other two, and I plan like to absolutely destroy them in terms of sales just because I know mine's going to be better now. So
Nice.
looking for like those differentiating factors. Another product I'm launching right now, like one person like sells a kit with it. Another person like sends out a book. So that's what I'm doing too. Like I'm having someone write me a PDF, like ebook for my product to give away with it.
And I think probably when you see like someone else, just like as a little side note, like come in there and like start selling it like way cheaper, like oftentimes it's only for like a few weeks or a month or whatever, you know what I mean? Like they're just trying to get like early sales, and then that's usually, if they're like $6 cheaper than you, that's probably like a break even price or something, right? Where like they can't, that's not really like sustainable for them. So that's kind of like what I found.
And that's one of the things, like I say, like I want to get to $10,000 a month, but that's probably never going to happen consistently, just in terms of like variability of everything. And that's, I think, where like the stress of running it comes in, just because things fluctuate all the time. As in, like, my best week, I did $2,000 in profit, but like that was a completely abnormal week.
Let's talk about that real quick, because I think a lot of beginners really freak out. I see this on the Facebook groups all the time. Like, I had 14 sales yesterday or 2 days ago, then yesterday I only had 2. Like, what happened? And I think people get like really stressed out. You want to talk about that real quick? Just like the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I sell pretty B2B products in terms of like consumers aren't buying my products. I know it's businesses. So like when I get huge orders, I like to put the address from the order into Google Maps. And like I've had Disneyland buy my products. I've had the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Reds did too. Like, I don't know why they're both from Cincinnati. The Underground Railroad Museum. And like, because you get these massive orders and it's like, who is this? And like, you're not going to get an order for like my product sells in packs of 6. And I think the person ordered like 50 of those. Like, no one's going to order 300 of them like all the time, except for like Disneyland's costume department.
Just a few weeks ago, I saw we sold like 200 packs of jungle sticks in a day or something, and it was the Marriott who ordered it. I guess like I don't know what they're doing, a huge wedding or something. But that's like, so because there's like 100 in a pack, so you're talking about like whatever 20,000. You know, I think like early on for like most entrepreneurs, it's like normally like mental and like emotional type stuff that like holds them back, like self-doubt, like thinking like, oh, you know, just because that guy can do it, like other people can't. And then also, like I said, like the emotional roller coaster in the early days of like some days sales are really good, other days aren't. Do you have anything else that you'd like to kind of just like speak to of that, or like experiences you've had or tips you could give about it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I found like trying to detach myself and being like as rationally as possible, but with like the emotional piece of believing myself and having ambition. Like when I ended up losing a lot of money on the hoverboards, like it became super easy for me to take more risk after that, because I knew like what the worst was going to happen. Like with the hoverboards, I think at the max, like I had the potential to lose $15,000 when I was a freshman in college. Like that was a pretty big deal. But now because of that experience, I've gotten like a lot better taking risk. And I think it's like after getting over that first hurdle and after that first failure, you basically learn like, this is the worst thing that's probably going to happen to me. And you learn how to recover from that and what to do moving forward.
I think a lot of the things that like holds people back from like getting started, or not necessarily maybe getting started, but scaling, is the cash flow issues. Because like I think like the biggest downside of this business is like it is pretty capital intensive. Do you have any kind of like tips for that, or did you just reinvest in the business? Have you gotten like outside funding through loans or anything else? Or
yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably one thing that I honestly think a lot of people like undersell to that extent, because what you have to realize is basically, and was my problem in the beginning, if you're putting like a $3,000 order in for a product, you figure out that it sells really well within 10 days, you need to order that next $3,000 order right then if you're doing private labels. So essentially you need double whatever the cost of like a month's of inventory is for a product, if it takes like a month to get there, if that makes sense. So like one of my products, I put in like $4,500 orders. So I essentially have $9,000 in that product at a given time. For tips, like retail arbitrage, and essentially I take all the money from my business and put it back in, and I don't take anything out really. And that's because I want to get to that goal I set for myself. But yeah, capital intensive. I mean, taking loans from family members is definitely a possibility. I've had a lot of my other successful friends be like, oh, Philip, like I'll give you money if you want. Because like once you figure out the process, I think it's really easy to repeat it again and again. So tips, I would be essentially to save your money and put it right back into your business once you get comfortable with the risk of it. Like right now, I'm taking money out of a lot of my stocks just to put into my business because I know I'm ultimately going to get a higher rate of return.
Yeah, just like recently within the past couple years, I've like become like a much bigger fan. I've kind of talked about this a few times before, but of using other people's money to grow businesses. I think like in the early days as like an entrepreneur, I thought that was like, I don't know, I think like the whole idea of like borrowing money and loans and credit cards and stuff just seemed like kind of like something that was like scary to me, or like, no, like you don't want to go in like credit card debt or like take out loans or whatever else. Maybe like just because of the way I was raised. But like I think like as like kind of like my entrepreneurial mindset has matured, like I'm now like a big believer in like using other people's money to like grow businesses, right? Especially because like if you have like the brains and that's the only thing holding you back, I think it's like a really good tool to have like in the tool chest. With that being said, let me ask you, so why, you're obviously doing a really good job of this. You've obviously figured out how to successfully launch these products. Why isn't your goal to have 100 products? Or maybe even you could ask yourself, or I could even ask yourself, why do you even at this point like want to finish college and not just become like an entrepreneur selling these products? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm curious what you say.
So both my parents ended up dropping out of college, and like it didn't end well for them. So there is like zero chance I would be allowed to do that. But that's probably the biggest reason. And then getting to 100 products, like, yeah, that'd be great. But like, again, like you said, capital intensity is really hard. And I don't think I want to bring in anyone else's money because I can get to the goal that I can get to with my own. And it's more of just a matter of time. And I'm not necessarily in like any rush to launch 100 products tomorrow. Also, in terms of like time and stress, I've thought about trying to hire people for this and help. But ultimately, like at this stage, I don't really know how I could integrate that well besides like getting a VA to help with small things. So, I mean, like right now, I'm very comfortable with launching like one new product a month. And also in terms of like capital intensity to start a product, like it's really hard. Like the most costly phase is definitely the first like month you launch a product because like you have to run more ads, you have to get reviews, you have to get pictures taken. I now pay people to write my listings for me because ultimately those people I'm paying are writing thousands of listings and they're going to do a much better job than me. So it's worth $100 to pay them to do that.
Have you ever thought about what the dream life looks like for you?
So my goal when I was in high school was always to make six figures after school. And I know I can get that by taking a job, but I really would rather do it for myself. So $10,000 of profit a month and just being able to go backpacking around the world is essentially the dream for me after school or within the next 2 years.
So the time, location, the financial freedom. I like it. Throughout this series of interviewing these entrepreneurs, that number comes up a lot, $10,000 a month in profit. I think this is always like really cool because launching 10 products and making $1,000 off each one, that's a very achievable goal, right? Like that's not far-fetched by any means. Like I'm very confident you'll be able to do that. And then it's also, I always find it's cool, like talking to entrepreneurs that, you know, like everyone I talk to, no one's like, oh yeah, I want to be able to have the Ferrari and the mansion and whatever else. It's pretty cool. Like when I talk to everyone, it's like, you know, I just want like $10,000 a month because with $10,000, I can travel. You can live like a very high quality of life, even like traveling around doing whatever else, like off $10,000 a month. So that'd be like, it's pretty amazing, right? And a lot of your friends in college right now probably think like you're a little bit crazy to say like, oh yeah, I'm going to be making like 10K a month in profit, like while working an hour a day, like backpacking like around the world for a year. They're probably like, dude, you can't do that. Like that's BS.
No, I think, and there's like definitely other ways to do it too. Like there's affiliate marketing, drop shipping, retail arbitrage. I mean, one of my friends at school literally makes drop shipping websites, runs them for 6 months and then sells them for like a couple tens of thousands of dollars. And I think a lot of people just underestimate themselves and the opportunities that are out there. And for me, I like just want to think short term right now and reach that one goal. And just backpacking through Europe was the greatest time of my entire life last year. So I would just love to be able to do that consistently for a year or two.
What you learn like through traveling too is such like a good experience that like you can never get, you know, like working a job or whatever else. Just about like other cultures, it just makes you like so much better as far as like international business goes and all those types of things too. So I think you have a really good plan there. Have you ever thought about how your life and career path would change as far as going like the Goldman Sachs route or like one of these other maybe you call them like prestigious like financial institutions or companies as opposed to going like the more entrepreneurial route?
I always wanted to work for myself when I was little, but I thought you needed a lot of money to start a business. So I'm like, okay, what job pays the most? I was like, and I just kind of looked around, learned about finance, and I was like, oh, if you're an investment banker, you can be making like $250,000 2 years out of college. I'm like, I'd rather do that and save a bunch of money. And then essentially spent the summer in Silicon Valley after freshman year of high school. Got to go to Google Ventures, Kleiner Perkins, like a whole bunch of these giant VC funds, like their barbecues, and meet a bunch of people and learned that wasn't necessarily true. And a lot of those people who are super entrepreneurial don't like kind of look down at investment bankers and consultants because they're so like inside the box. And I realized when I was working at that startup, like what you like work takes up a significant part of your life. So I'd rather like work to live than I'd rather live to work than work to live and just do what I enjoy. So I think if I went down like the IB route with investment banking or consulting, like you'd make a lot and you'd set yourself up for a really good career, but it's not necessarily the career I want because I enjoy being my own boss and working for myself.
Especially like in college, like the maybe like some of the professions that a lot of people kind of like look up to is like the doctor, the lawyer, the investment banker, like those types of positions. And then like in like the entrepreneurial startup world, all those positions are kind of like looked down upon a little bit. Like they're not like creative. They they I don't know. Like that is like totally true though. Like a lot of those are kind of not like looked down upon, but just being like, that's like a lame job.
I think a lot of people in school get fixated too much on money. As in, every single one of my friends are like, "Oh, I'm going to work in investment banking. I'll be able to make like 120 to 150,000 dollars a year." But they also don't take it in perspective that half of their pay is their bonus. And in New York City, your bonus gets taxed at 50%, and the cost of living in like New York is not comparable to like most places in the United States.
So at the end of the day, you're still kind of just living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, like not that bad, but in the sense that your apartment costs $2,000 a month in rent.
Where do you see yourself in, let's say, 10 years from now?
I mean, ultimately, the Amazon business is like, I don't think it's necessarily like super sustainable. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this like for the rest of my life, but I want to be able to use it to create passive income in the sense that I can work on other things. And I really, really like software products. And I think B2B is super easy in the sense that if you find a business and you find the problem and you're able to solve it for them, you can turn it into a company really easy. The internship I was a part of this summer, essentially I was in this accelerator program for a Fortune 500 company. We were put on teams of 1 to 4, and my team literally took an idea, created a B2B company, launched it in the Netherlands, and then got a couple $1 million in funding for that business to like actually be grown after the summer. So I would love to do something like that. And I realized at my internship this summer while doing that was the most fun thing you could do. And to be able to have a job where everything falls on you and you're able to create that growth and see all of your effects on the business is the most fun thing in the world. So I really just want to be able to work for myself and have my own team.
Looking back, I guess that's what I did as well. I used like my Amazon business as a way to like be generating money, like without having to necessarily put in many hours. And then from that, that's when I created Jungle Scouts. Like I think you would kind of be like on similar routes, right? Because I guess like it frees up your time. Then like you can be thinking about like, well, what is the thing that like I like want to do most? What if you would have asked me this like 4 years ago? I would have told you I want to like sit on the beach all day and like hang out and like do stuff like that. Like while I'm just making money. Then after like a few weeks, I'm like, all right, like I want to like build something else, create something. Yeah.
I think it's good to have those breaks and enjoy yourself. But at the same time, for me, like I'm always thinking of other ideas. I write 10 business ideas down a day in my notebook, just kind of for practice. They don't even have to be good. And I just think that's like the most fun thing. And I just want to do that makes me happy and that I enjoy. That's all that really matters.
How did you learn about selling on Amazon? Like what kind of like educational material did you read or take in?
The Jungle Scout like 10-page guide is super helpful for like the very basics. For me, a lot of it was trial and error and finding out what works for me. Just because like a lot of the materials that like say you and Scott publish are just used by everyone. So I like to differentiate myself, just figure out what works for me and then using it. The biggest thing was probably definitely Scott's videos on YouTube and then your 10-page Jungle Scout guide that kind of like lays out the very basics. And then the Facebook group was super helpful too. Being able to ask questions, kind of creating a small friend group within those Facebook groups. That way you're able to talk to each other on like what works for you, like kind of monitor each other's project progress. And that's what I ended up doing with a handful of people with the Amazon group. And then having someone to push you is definitely the biggest thing. And now like the kid I taught to sell on Amazon at school, we text each other about it every single day and talk about like what works for him, what works for me. And ultimately it's a very like collaborative community because I think a lot of people have the mindset like there's so much opportunity on Amazon for like 1 million people to make $10,000 a month in profit that it doesn't need to be super cutthroat. Unless 2 people are selling the same product, then they like absolutely hate each other.
What other types of educational material do you read or learn? What are some other recommendations you give to the audience?
I actually worked for a venture capital firm after my senior year of high school. And so the guy I worked for ended up being a huge mentor of mine. And now essentially I just kind of followed his advice and read as much as possible. So a lot of the books I'm a really big fan of are both business and psychology. I think 0 to 1's really good, Lean Startup, ones that would pertain to an Amazon business. A lot of psychology books. Like I'm a really big fan of like 48 Laws of Power, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and just essentially books in those realms. And then autobiographies as well, like Richard Branson's, Henry Ford's, Henry Ford's prelogue is probably like the beginning of the book is amazing. Like I listened to that on audiobook like probably 10 times.
Those are some good ones. What about, do you have any favorite podcasts?
I'm a big fan of A16Z, which is Andreessen and Horowitz podcast. Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast. That's what it is. Also the Tim Ferriss show, is both those two are really good.
Yeah, I agree. Two good ones there.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of Titan, and The 4 Hour Body, I highly recommend.
Not a 4 Hour Workweek fan?
I've never read it, so I can't say.
That's a good one. I think it would be a good one for you to read, especially with the traveling mindset. Some of it, the information is a little bit more like outdated now, but still a good one.
That's probably one of the reasons I've been avoiding it, but yeah.
We talked about a lot of your wins and successes so far. Tell us a little bit about some of the, I mean, I guess you told us about like losing some of the money with the hoverboards. What other kinds of like struggles or struggles have you had, as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to do other things. Like one thing, I was working on with my friends for a while, and we like had potential customers for it. We had potential investors. We essentially were going to make a HIPAA compliant software chat for nursing homes and assisted living communities. That way doctors, nurses, and family members could all communicate medical information over like a chat system instead of having it to do it either fax or in person. And the biggest problem with that is like passion, in the sense that you need to find two things that you like and really combine those. So one of the things I'm working on right now is combining technology with the snow sports industry, because I know that really well. So one of the biggest struggles is trying to stick with ideas, especially for me personally. Like there's 10 different things that I get excited about a month, and trying to pick one and really focus on that one. So my tip for that would be essentially pick an idea, just try it as hard as you can for 30 days and then see what happens. But a lot of it's just really patience and working towards it slowly. That's why I kind of have like one software project that I want to work on while I'm doing my Amazon business. That way I have like two things. That way I don't necessarily get bored with one, and I have two chances of becoming lucky with one of them.
That was kind of one of your struggles, because that I guess it didn't work out. You guys devoted some time and effort and everything to it and didn't have any success, or for whatever reason it was killed.
I think a lot of people, like in school, trying to develop a company is incredibly hard, just because you have the social peer pressure on you to go get a job like everyone else. And then you also have the time constraint in terms of like, you're paying $50,000 a year for school. You need to get a good GPA. You need to put time towards your classes. And then trying to have like that social aspect, do well in class and work on side projects is really hard. And I can imagine people with full-time jobs have that same problem, where they're working 40, 60 hours a week, wanting to spend time with their family. And ultimately you just kind of have to make sacrifices and choose what's more important. For me right now, because I have like essentially a job for me lined up after school, I'm not necessarily worried about my grades as much, so I can put more time towards other side projects. So for people with full-time jobs, they should be utilizing the time they don't have, because everyone is definitely wasting time on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Netflix, all of those things. And I think people lie to themselves how much they're doing it.
When do you graduate?
I am currently a junior, so I graduated in 2019.
Are there any other kind of struggles or hardships that you face that you can remember? I know like as humans, we tend to block these things out, but I like hearing about these, because this is the very like real side of like entrepreneurship. It's not all rainbows and butterflies by any means.
Social pressure from friends and family, in the sense that like people are usually like really big hypocrites, and they want to like kind of direct responsibility from themselves. Like if you watch James Altucher at all, or read any of his books, like he'll give you advice and then tell you not to listen to it, because he doesn't want you to listen to it, fail, and then like be held responsible. And for like example, like my mom was super encouraging for me to be entrepreneurial when I was little. But then like when the time comes after school, like she'd rather see me get a job instead of taking a risk. So like having to deal with those different things, I think, is really difficult. And then also having like family members or friends who don't necessarily kind of understand it, trying to go against the grain of everyone else is really, really hard. And that's why I think it's good to surround yourself. Like with one of my friends who is like been super successful in school and has the option to work for himself after school. That's why we're close, because we have those similar goals. So essentially the struggle or difficulty would be social peer pressure from going against the grain. So the solution is finding like-minded people to surround yourself with.
Cool. I think that's really good advice. I remember like when I quit my job, I used to be like a civil engineer, and my boss was like, he just seemed like very like disappointed in me. He's like, like you're on like this great path here, like you're about to become like, it was called like a professional engineer after you've been there for like 4 years. And then You know, he's like, I can see like management potential out of you. I don't know why you'd like quit, you know, after you have like this like perfect career path. And it's like, I don't like this job. I make more money from the side hustle that I work on 2 hours a day. It's like, dude, I don't have a future here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because a lot of people, I think, have just been developed to be like, go get a job, just work for someone else. And I think that is absolutely fine. I think a lot of people have that mindset, but like trying to explain to those people like that your mindset is different is really, really hard because those people like security.
I think they think like anything else is just like whatever, a scam or, you know, like that's not possible or like stuff like that. So that's a really good tip though for everyone listening is to surround yourself by other like-minded people. So you found one at your school, you said in the Facebook groups. Do you know anywhere else that it's a good spot to like find these other like-minded people?
When I was working at a startup in San Francisco, I became really good friends with a guy in finance and then met his girlfriend, and me and his now ex-girlfriend are like best friends. And she is a 27-year-old who went to undergrad at Wharton at Penn and then Stanford master's degree. And like now she runs her own consulting firm and she's probably one of my best friends. And we like text each other every day, just like because we have those identical like mindsets. So I think looking through your network and then trying to find friends of friends.
I think that's really cool. And, you know, like being in Silicon Valley or anyone else, like you're in like a really good community for things like that. But let's try to put ourselves like in the shoes of someone maybe like living in like a smaller town, just like somewhere in the States or whatever. Like there's not really like that like business or entrepreneurial type community. Do you know anywhere else that like they can like is a good spot for them to find like-minded people?
Yeah, Reddit. So like I was not a big fan of Reddit till recently. Like recently kind of discovered Reddit this summer, but I think there are so many subthreads within Reddit that you can find. Like I'm subscribed to all of the Amazon seller threads in Reddit just because those are super easy to follow. And then I've never experienced it, but I know people do meetup groups a lot as well. When I was in New York City this past summer, I remember going on meetup.com and just looking, and there was tons of Amazon seller Facebook group. I mean, like meetup groups that people would go to every week. Essentially network, Facebook groups, Reddit, or kind of other like organizations with it. Just anywhere online, essentially, that people collaborate.
One thing I like and I dislike about Reddit is the people there are very like crude. So you know you're getting like like pretty like legitimate information because like they will call out anyone who they think's like BSing them or like anything like that. Like it's like very raw, right?
I've just noticed this based on other posts, but if like someone posts something, like they will dig into all of your past posts, all of your history, find out who you are, go on your Facebook. Like people there are like super in depth. And very blunt and honest with each other.
This one dude posted like a Jungle Scout review and like we had like nothing to do with this. I don't know who it is. And it was like pretty like critical review. Like it was overall positive, but very critical. And people just like ripped him apart. Like this is probably like a paid review and like all this kind of stuff. We like had no idea who this dude was. It was legitimately just like an honest review. But I guess I was going to say like the reason it's a love-hate relationship with Reddit is like sometimes I feel like it can, since it is so like honest and crude and like raw, sometimes it is like a little like pessimistic, I think, I think like it could kind of like get some entrepreneurs like down in the dumps. But yeah, you just like kind of have to like keep that in mind, I'd say, if you're reading it. But meetup.com is a really good one because you're right, there are tons of Amazon meetups all over the world, and that's a good spot to find them. This has been a really good conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I think we'll go ahead and start to wrap this up. Philip, do you have any kind of like last pieces of advice? I'm sure a lot of people watching this are now inspired after hearing your story and like to follow in your footsteps. What are some last like tips or pieces of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest problem was definitely starting. It took like 6 months. So I think like once you're comfortable with a project, like a product, I think the biggest advice is to just go for it. And if it fails, just try again. Because my mindset has been once I get a product that makes $1,000 a month, then I can just keep using those profits to launch more. So ultimately, once you get that one, you're pretty much set in the terms that you can keep doing it again and again. So really just try and get that first product and go after it once you think you have one.
I have one last question for you. Do you try to drive any type of outside traffic to your Amazon listings, or it's all natural on Amazon?
It's all natural. I actually stopped running PPC on my listings because it actually just decreases my profit margins. Like I do more sales when I run PPC, but I would rather not have to pay for advertising and have a larger profit than higher sales.
Philip, thank you very much for taking an hour out of your busy day to chat with me. I hope you have a good rest of the day. It was good chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. Do you mind if I take a Snapchat of the computer really quick?
Go for it.